Hi there, this is Harry and welcome back to Advanced English Lessons with Harry, where I try to help you to get a better understanding of the English language, helping you with business English, for example, conversational skills, preparation for proficiency exams, or indeed that all-important job interview. Whatever it is, whatever you need, we're here to help. And at the end of this particular lesson and video, I'm going to give you my contact details, as I always do. And if you need to contact me, then you'll have the address to do it. Okay, and in this particular advanced English lesson, we're taking a look at the news. So I've got a news article that I've taken out of the Guardian newspaper, and I'll give you the link in the description below so you'll be able to read it yourselves. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to read it, okay? And then I've highlighted some words, expressions, and I'm going to explain those to you in a little bit of detail so that when you read it yourself, you won't have to look up the internet, you won't have to look up a dictionary, but you'll get them from me. So you'll be able to follow along with the article, and then you'll see the words that I've highlighted, and you'll get a better understanding as to what they mean and how you might be able to use them. Okay, so this is an article based on a very topical idea at the moment about all this artificial intelligence, and in particular about this chat GPT, yeah? Okay, so I'll read it to you twice. Once to give you the gist, and the second time to go through the words. So here we go. The type of factual error that blighted the launch of Google's artificial intelligence-powered chatbot will carry on troubling companies using the technology, experts say, as the market value of its parent company continues to plunge. Shareholders were rattled after it emerged that a video demo of Google's rival to the Microsoft-backed ChatGPT chatbot contained a flawed response to a question about NASA's James Webb Space Telescope. The animation showed a response from the program called BARD stating that the JWST, James Webb Space Telescope, took the very first pictures of a planet outside of our own solar system, prompting astronomers to point out that this was untrue. Google said the error underlined the need for the rigorous testing that BARD is undergoing before a wider release to the public, which has been scheduled for the coming weeks. A presentation of Google's AI-backed search plans on Wednesday also failed to reassure shareholders. This week, Microsoft, a key backer of ChatGPT's developer OpenAI, announced it was integrating the chatbot's technology into its Bing search engine. Google also plans to integrate the technology behind BARD into its search engine. BARD and ChatGPT are based on large language models, a type of artificial neural network, which are fed vast amounts of text from the internet in a process that teaches them how to generate responses to text-based prompts. ChatGPT became a sensation after its launch in November last year, as it composed recipes, poems, work presentations, and essays from single, simple prompts. Okay, so that's the article. Let me read it again to you a little bit more slowly, and then we'll look at the words. The type of factual error that blighted the launch of Google's artificial intelligence-powered chatbot will carry on troubling companies using the technology, experts say, as the market value of its parent company continues to plunge. Shareholders were rattled after it emerged that a video demo of Google's rival to the Microsoft-backed ChatGPT chatbot contained a flawed response to a question about NASA's James Webb Space Telescope. The animation showed a response from the program called BARD stating that the JWST, James Webb Space Telescope, took the very first pictures of a planet outside of our own solar system, prompting astronomers to point out this was in fact untrue. Google said the error underlined the need for the rigorous testing that Bard is undergoing before a wider release to the public, which had been scheduled for the coming weeks. A presentation of Google's AI-backed search plans on Wednesday also failed to reassure shareholders. This week, Microsoft, a key backer of ChatGPT's developer OpenAI, announced it was integrating the chatbot's technology into its Bing search engine. Google also plans to integrate the technology behind Bard into its search engine. Bard and ChatGPT are based on large language models, a type of artificial neural network, which are fed vast amounts of text from the internet in a process that teaches them how to generate responses to text-based prompts. ChatGPT became a sensation after its launch in November last year, as it composed recipes, poems, work presentations, and essays from simple prompts. Okay, so that's the text. As I said, I've given you the link below. So here's some of the words that I've highlighted and what they mean. The first word is blighted, the type of factual error that blighted the launch. When something is blighted, it is damaged, okay? So if they made a mistake, as they did, there was an error, so it has blighted the launch, it has damaged the launch, and people didn't look on it too kindly, and in effect, it damaged the share price. Now, you can blight lots of things. You can blight a crop by an invasion of insects, so it's damaged because these insects cause disease among the crop. So blighted is to damage. The next we have carry on. Now this is a simple and very well used phrasal verb. So it says here, the artificial intelligence powered chatbot will carry on troubling companies. To carry on means to continue, okay? So when you carry on something, you continue. Carry on speaking, carry on listening, carry on with your exercise, continue, okay? So when the teacher comes into the classroom and tells the kids, carry on with what you're doing, she means continue what you're doing. So this damage, this blight for Google will carry on, will continue troubling companies that use this artificial intelligence. And then the very last word in this particular paragraph says will impact on the market value of its parent company as it continues to plunge. And to plunge means to fall very, very quickly. So if the share price was $100 a share, and then after this mistake and after the launch, the share price went to $60 or $50, then you could say the share price has plunged. It has fallen very, very quickly. So when something falls, it plunges. It means it goes down really quickly. In the next paragraph, shareholders were rattled after it emerged, after these mistakes were emerged. So when somebody is rattled, it means they're not so sure. They are a little bit circumspect, or they're a little bit nervous, okay? So if somebody is rattled, they are unsure about what they should say. They are unsure about whether they should continue using the service. So if shareholders were rattled, it means they were very unhappy and frightened and scared at the sudden drop in the share price. They were rattled. And then we use the word, this ChatGPT chatbot contained a flawed response. So a flawed response means a response with a mistake in it. So if you write some document and it is flawed, and you'll see the spelling there, F-L-A-W-E-D, it means that there's a fundamental mistake to the information that you're using. And then the example they were using the example that this telescope took the first images of planets in our solar system, when in fact that information was incorrect. So the statement they made was flawed, it was inaccurate, it was incorrect. And then when we use the word prompting astronomers, prompting means giving the astronomers an opportunity to come out and tell them, no, in fact, you're wrong. Yeah. So when somebody is prompted, they are pushed gently. Okay. So if you're standing on the stage and you forget your words as an actor, somebody on the side of the stage will prompt you. They will whisper what the words will be. They give you a gentle little push or a hint. So in this case, when this information was announced and there was obvious a mistake in it, it prompted, it encouraged, it gave astronomers a little bit of a push to come out and say, sorry guys, you're wrong.
You're wrong.
Okay. Now, it says here, they prompting astronomers to point out. And when you point out something, you indicate it. Okay. So if you're traveling around a city on a tourist bus, the tour guide will point out places of interest. He will show you, he will indicate to you the places of interest. So what these astronomers did, they were prompted to point out, to indicate where and what the mistake was, to point out. Next paragraph, Google said the error underlined the need for the rigorous testing. So when something is tested rigorously, it means in great, great detail, okay? So rigorous means thorough or complete. So a rigorous test will be a thorough, complete test to make sure that there are no mistakes in the future. So what Google will do now that this mistake has been identified, they'll make sure the next time they launch something, all of the information is stress tested to make sure that it's accurate and they're not going to give any misleading information. So when you test something rigorously, then you'll go through it quite thoroughly. If you buy a new car, you would expect that it will be tested rigorously, or there will be a rigorous test on the car before they hand it over to you, that the steering wheel works, the locking system works, the brakes work, the engine works, whatever it is, or in modern cars, all the technology works, then there will be a rigorous, a really detailed testing program on that particular car. Next, they were going to go through this rigorous testing before a wider release to the public. So what does that mean, a wider release to the public? Well, the release that they had based on this article was to a group of journalists or specialists in that particular area. So it was quite an invited guest list, a short, small list of people that they wanted to impress. Of course, with a mistake, they didn't impress them so much, but it was a very narrow range of invitees. But a wider release to the public means a general release to everybody. Okay, so the whole world will have the information. So a wider release to the public means make it available to everybody, to make something available to everybody. And then in the end of that particular paragraph, it says that this attempt failed to reassure shareholders, failed to reassure. So when it fails to reassure, it means it doesn't succeed in giving people peace of mind. They're still uncertain, they're still unclear, and they're still nervous. So when you fail to reassure somebody, they don't feel any better after you've given them the information. Okay? So if you had your car stolen, hopefully not. If you had your car stolen and you reported it to the police will come to you and tell you, I can guarantee you that we'll have your car back within 24 hours. Well, that's a good reassurance that you believe the police are going to find your car. But if the policeman said to you, look, the chances of us finding the car are pretty remote. The likelihood is that the car has been stolen, and by the time it's discovered, all the parts will be taken off the car and sold individually. So the police will fail to reassure you that you're going to get your car back. In fact, quite the opposite. The chances of getting your car back are almost zero. So they failed to reassure you. So in this particular article, the announcement by Google failed to reassure shareholders that they would see the share price bouncing back up. So they are a bit worried about the future of this particular bot. This week, Microsoft, a key backer. So what does that mean, a key backer? Well, when somebody is a key backer, it means they are a key or an important supporter, and usually financially. Okay, so if Google are putting all the money into this particular bot, then they are supporting it financially, they are supporting it with resources, they are providing technicians or analysts or programmers to help to develop this particular bot. Okay, so they are the key backer, the number one, the most important, the person with all the readies, with all the money available to help support and drive this and get it to where they want it to be. So a key backer. A key backer of a company is the main shareholder, the person who has invested the most money. It could be a pension fund, could be a government department, it could be a high net worth individual, a key backer. And then in the very last paragraph, when we're talking about Bard and ChatGPT are based on large language models, then we use the word vast. They are fed vast amounts. Vast means huge, yeah? A vast amount of information. A vast amount of rain fell over the last few days. A vast amount of snow is needed for the French and Austrian and Italian Alps if they're going to enjoy a nice winter skiing business. Okay, so vast means huge, great. A vast wilderness, like the desert, is a massive, massive area of land, but it's a wilderness, so a vast amount. Okay, so to generate and improve or to give these Bard and ChatGPT artificial intelligence, to make them workable and worthwhile, they have to be fed vast amounts of information so that they can draw on their artificial intelligence. And then finally, the last word we have here is composed, as it composed recipes, poems, work presentations. Well, to compose is to make up or to bring together. Like a musical composition, when somebody writes music, they compose music. Somebody writes the lyrics, somebody puts together the music score. So, good partnerships of songwriters and musicians who come up with the words and the music. So to compose something is to bring it together, to write it, to create it. So in this sentence, it says, ChatGPT became a sensation after its launch last November as it composed recipes, poems. It was able to create recipes and poems within seconds that other people could take hours and hours, if not weeks, to compose. Okay, so there you've got some specific words. Blighted, to damage. Carry on, to continue. Plunge, to fall very quickly. Rattled, to be unsettled or nervous. Flawed response, a damaged or a response that has some mistakes in it. Prompting, to push gently, to persuade somebody to do something. To point out, to indicate. Rigorous testing, very difficult, detailed testing. A wider release to the public means to almost everybody, if not everybody. Failed to reassure, failed to make people feel comfortable. There was a mistake and they failed to reassure. They were unable to make people feel comfortable and happy about it. A key backer, the main investor. Vast amounts, huge amounts of information needed, and composed recipes and poems. They created recipes or wrote recipes, created poems, wrote poems through this artificial intelligence. Okay, so there you go. That's the news article. As I said, it's taken from a Guardian newspaper. I've highlighted some of the words. And often when you read a newspaper article, these journalists are using language that perhaps you might not use on a day-to-day basis because it's good quality, very good quality English, but it may not be the natural English that you and I would use if we're sitting over a cup of coffee and discussing ChatGPT. But this will help you to use language, particularly for essay writing, particularly for exams like IELTS or CAE. So it's important to understand the words, and it's also important to know what they mean. And as I've given you some examples of alternative words, synonyms that you can use instead of those. Okay, so if you need any more information, you know where to contact me. www.englishlessonvia.skype.com. Very happy to help you. And if you want some more news articles like this, just let me know and we can include them in future lesson plans. Okay, this is Harry thanking you and thanking you for watching and listening. And as always, remember to join me for the next lesson.